Welcome back to the Port Temecula podcast with your hosts Rick DeLucio and Shannon Cole. In this episode, Shannon chats with Phoenix-based sommelier Sam Capaldi, better known as Samantha Sommelier, about her unexpected connection to Temecula, her playful take on food and wine pairings, and answers to some of your listener questions. Sam brings a fresh, fun, and approachable perspective that makes wine feel a little less intimidating and a lot more exciting. Once again, 3 lucky listeners will each win a $25 gift card to Corbeau Wine and Tea House. To enter, just answer this question. What was the name of the first wine Reagan's family released? If you don't know, go back to part 1 of our discussion with Corbeau to listen for the answer. Send in your answer by emailing us at info@porttemecula.com or message us on Instagram at Port Temecula by May 31st. Good luck. Now let's get back to Shannon's discussion with Sam Capaldi. Cheers.
Welcome back to Port Temecula, or if it's your first time listening, thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Shannon Cole, and I'm here to introduce Sam Capaldi, the self-proclaimed no-snob somm, known for her wine and snack pairings, as well as her thriving wine club, but also for creating an approachable, safe, and fun environment for wine lovers. So welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon. I'm stoked to be here.
I'm glad you're here. We always like to start our episodes out by talking about what we've been drinking. And on that note, I actually had a food and wine pairing that reminded me of you.
Yeah, what was it?
I was at Two Travelers Wine Bar in Old Town Temecula, and I had a glass of Matson Wines Chardonnay from Santa Cruz Mountains, and it was delicious. And I paired it with, they have this, like, they call it chips and dip, but it's like, you know, the kettle chips with like a caramelized onion dip that has like
oh god, yeah.
Oh yeah, so good.
Amazing. You know, Chardonnay with that. Oh, with the creaminess. That's so good. That's one of my thank you for thinking of me. I'm honored. I like that I set the tone for when people think of the snacky, the salty, the Taco Bell. Like, that makes me so happy when I get pictures of all of that. Yeah. I've been drinking, obviously, a lot of wine. It's what we do. But to be honest, it's getting really warm here in Phoenix really quick. So I've been craving like all the spritzes. So I'm definitely like a Campari spritz girl. So that's always been like my go-to. But I've kind of been dabbling with like elderflower, like Saint Germain, and doing some Saint Germain Prosecco spritzes, like fresh citrus. So all just the light, fruity, floral has sounded just so good to me and just so crushable. But I do drink too many of them. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should not do, you know, like 5 spritzes in a row on a Tuesday. But yeah, that's been one of my go-tos along with just like sparkling wine lately. I've been on such a bubbles kick too.
Yeah, you can't go wrong there.
No, absolutely not. Always sounds good and goes with all my salty. I got my fries and bubbly behind me, and
I love that.
always tasty.
Getting into the episode, my friend Krista and I used to talk about doing a segment on wine and Cheez-It pairings. And when I came across your Instagram, I immediately shared it with her. And since then, we've been following along, and it has been so fun to see you take everyday snacks from like Trader Joe's and Taco Bell and pair them with wine. And you approach wine in such a fun and casual way. It's hard not to smile watching all of your videos.
People think I'm like drunk when I'm like doing my videos because I'm just like so giggly. And I'm like, well, how can I not be happy when I'm talking about Cheez-Its and wine? Like, it's so much fun. I'm so glad that was the video that introduced you to me and kind of started the whole journey. But it's funny, I've been in the wine industry for 10 years. I turned 32 on Easter, and I started when I was 22. When I first started out, I did not even think people would be open to like those approachable, you know, snack pairings, junk food, all of that. And it's funny, once I started on my social media, just posting what I wanted, everything shifted. Like, I was happier. I wasn't fed up with Instagram anymore and social media. Like, I was finding my people. Like, of course you get with any, you know, shift in a niche and demographic, you get those like haters, but the people that gravitated and loved it outweighed everything. And that was the best thing I ever could have done, was started to post about the chip pairings, the Trader Joe's, the Taco Bell, and it just, the love for it and everyone's excitement just kept me so excited and motivated, you know? And that's the best, when you could show up as a business on social media and just genuinely love it. And that's kind of been so exciting, you know, but it wasn't always like that. I always have to just kind of like, you know, say it. It started pretty rough, as you know, when you start a business and you're trying to figure out what your niche is, and you're being young and you're in the wine industry and you're just trying to like be important and sound smart to other people. So it took me, I want to say, like at least 4 to 5 years like in it as a somm to start to kind of get my groove and feel my confidence. And you know, I was always working side jobs and working for other people as I was building the Sam Somm business, and it was kind of always my outlet to be myself, you know, cuss, be blunt, talk about wine the way I wanted to. And then my paying jobs would be not a different, it would be a different version of me. Yeah, it would be like the Somm version, you know, like the, not that I'm not a Somm and I don't know my shit, but just the version where I felt like wasn't my comfort, you know, zone. So it's been really cool. I want to say the past 3 years, I've been fully in my Sam Somm business and just getting to do what I love to do, which has been so cool.
That's amazing. It's so fun to watch you do all of your videos, because you're just like truly so happy, and you can really tell that's what your like passion in life. So
yeah, I feel like it's not doing, you know, a lot for the world, but it's making people smile. So I'm like, I'll take it.
It's true. It does make people smile.
Yeah, it's the little contributions we can do in this crazy world, right? Like not take it too seriously and have just those simple pleasures. And I think food and wine is, and to me, and I know you agree, is the ultimate pleasure, right? And I feel like we always, you know, think of, as in the industry, we think of wine as like a cultural experience and a story and meant to be paired with food. And we got to preach it to everyone so that the wine industry continues to succeed and people continue to drink and not, you know, villainize alcohol. And if it's just as simple as adding a potato chip and a conversation to the mix, that's amazing. You don't got to go to a fancy dinner and make it elaborate with the steak and a Bordeaux. That's beautiful, you know, once in a while. But if people could just normalize, they could do it at home after work on their couch and be affordable, I think that will definitely help more wine consumption take place, which is the goal, right?
Yeah. Keep it casual and approachable. So I recently learned you have a wine guide on Temecula. So I knew we had to get you on the podcast since we are Temecula focused. So what first brought you out to Temecula?
Yeah. So fun fact, I was born and raised in Simi Valley. So I actually grew up going to Temecula. That's where my mom's best friend lives. They're part owners of the Pachanga hotel, which I know is like pretty big over there. And so I've always had memories as a kid going to Pachanga, going to Temecula, not going to the wineries. And it's so funny, as I, you know, got older, I moved to Arizona for school, and then I, you know, started getting into my wine industry stuff. I was like, wait, Temecula has wines, you know, because when I was little, I wasn't going to the wineries, or even though I was going to Temecula all the time. So it was so cool to like, you know, realize like it's this whole crazy, beautiful California wine region. And I would say the first trip that I officially took was when I went to my friend's bachelorette, actually in 2017. I think I just finished my wine program, and I was we went to Wilson Creek, I remember. We went to all the big fun ones, and that was a fun one. That was a drunk adventure. So that was obviously like all the best memes with like my girlfriends and stuff. But then 2019, I believe it was, I officially went on a wine like press industry trip with the Temecula Valley Wine Growers Association. Devin, my friend Devin Parr. I mean, we weren't friends at the time. We've become friends throughout the years. She invited me and a handful of other industry professionals, and, you know, set up this really awesome 3-day itinerary. And that was my first like deep dive into, the wines and the wine makers and the food scene. And that was just so cool. And so that was my first trip out there. And I believe we went to first official wine trip, and we went to South Coast Winery. We stayed there. Beautiful. Felt like I was in Tuscany. We went to Faulkner. We went to Robert Renzoni. We went to Wayans, and we made our own. I remember we made our own wine. We blended it our own wine and got to bottle it, which was really fun. So they kind of took it the next step and let us have like our own activity. And I remember naming it. And I think they told me not to drink it for like another year. I think I drank it like the next day. It's just typical, like being young in the wine industry. Like, I got this alcohol. And I'm trying to think, we went to a couple more. I think we went to Dofo.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a fun one. On top of that, we just got this like whole personalized guided tour, and Devin was a huge part of that and really helped tell the story of the region and, the terroir. And it was just cool because I grew up in, Southern California near the Pacific Ocean, and, learning how we grow amazing wines there, just, how Napa and Sonoma can. We could do it too. We got those, cool mornings, cool nights, sunny days, and just such a versatile terroir and like climate, and I think Temecula, I think it's very much more well known now, but back then it was like this like hidden treasure, if you will. So it's cool seeing it just get bigger and bigger and more known.
I really wanted to do this episode talking about wine lingo because I get questions about this all the time from friends, people I don't know on social media are always wanting to know, what does this mean? Or when somebody says this, what is actually behind that? And I thought you would be such a good person to help answer these questions just because you are casual about it, but also so knowledgeable.
Love the basic wine lingo and breaking it down and just helping people understand that a lot of people in wine have different explanations for things sometimes. And it doesn't mean like someone's like right or wrong. It's just, like wine's not always black and white. So it is so funny when you're teaching about it, I'm just really blunt about it. And I'm like, this is what it is. But like, if you taste this or you smell that, like you do, like no one can say that you don't. So I love just kind of reminding people it's kind of silly and to definitely not take it too seriously and just know a little bit of the basic. Really good topic. Love this.
All right. So what is a sommelier?
So I used to just say a sommelier is a wine expert, and technically I think it translates to a wine steward that is knowledgeable in all things wine aspects, service. So what really makes a sommelier is the service component, being able to properly talk about wine in like a restaurant setting. And when I went to my intensified sommelier training program when I was 22, I didn't know that. I just thought it was like learning about wine, drinking it, and jokes on me when you had to, go through all those proper tests of decanting and all of that. So I'd say overall, sommelier is a knowledgeable, wine expert, steward, whatever you want, with an emphasis in the service component.
Do different wine glasses actually make a difference?
Yeah, so I get that question a lot too. And it's funny. I think maybe I've done one total Instagram post out of all these years about wine glasses because I don't really like getting too into it because it makes people feel like they need to buy a lot of different glasses. And that makes me feel bad because you just don't. But technically, if you're like in a classroom setting, like with Rydell, for example, and they're, they have all these glasses in front of you and these different wines, Pinot Noir, Cabernet, all that. Technically, scientifically, yes, there are, there is proof that certain glasses are going to showcase a wine differently. In the average wine consumer, or even me on my couch day to day, no, I'm not going to be able to tell the difference. All I would say it's preference. If you want to use the same style glass for a white, rosé, red, bubbly, do it. I'd probably go with a more open vessel, a wider base vessel. Always better to have it open to aerate rather than keep it tighter. And I think a lot of people could agree it's like this unspoken but also spoken thing, whether you're in wine or not. The thin lip. We all like a thin lip on our glass. I've seen so many TikToks, not even of like wine accounts, and they're like, the moment you're at the restaurant and you see that thick glass, you're like, no. That thin lip, I mean, it is something about the way that it feels, but it does get the wine on your tongue quicker. It touches, your palate easier. It opens it up a lot better. Yeah, a thin lip and a clear glass, preferably with the stem. Those are my check marks.
Can you chill red wine?
Love that. Yeah, I chill all my red wines. Again, being in Phoenix, it's quite warm like all year almost, because I just always am craving something on the refreshing side. That chill does like make a big difference. The only thing I'll say is there are like two sides of it. Yes, it's all preference, but I think everyone should, if they can, keep their wines, their reds under 70 degrees just for proper storage and keeping it quality. So using like a wine fridge or a dark closet, so under 70. And if you, like me, like to add that extra chill, I keep my wine fridge at like 54. So that's like 10 degrees warmer than a kitchen fridge. A kitchen fridge is usually like 45. So to me, it's like that perfect, like slight chill. And I know a lot of people normalize chilling like lighter reds, like Pinot Noirs and Gamay, which obviously I love, but I do Cabernets, Merlots, Zins. All my reds have like that slight chill. So it's preference. And of course, if you don't have a wine fridge, you could just pop it in your kitchen fridge. Maybe just take it out 30 minutes before you actually want to drink it to kind of let it get a little less cold. And that way you could still smell it, taste everything, because if it's really cold, that's going to mute its profile, right? Its aromas and its taste. So if you don't like the wine, then yeah, chill it up and then you don't really taste anything. So that could be a little hack if you're trying to make the most out of it. But yeah, that like slight 54, 55 chill is like perfect for me.
Okay, let's talk about sulfites. What are they? And do they cause headaches?
Yeah, that's like the number one question, I feel like. So sulfites are naturally occurring, right? In wine fermentation, they're a way that the wine is preserved. So a lot of the times it is naturally occurring, right? But yeah, there's a lot of wineries that add extra to prolong further shelf life, right? But at the same time, I think it was a Wine Folly study with Madeline Puckett, where she did this test where, if you could have 3 pieces of dried apricot or like dried fruit, you could have a glass of wine and feel the same way, sulfites wise. So I try to explain that to people where sulfites are not the main culprit, that are causing you issues. But of course, if you're having a bottle of it, that'd be like maybe having like a bag of dried fruit or a container of French fries, something that has it and might make you feel a different way. So overall, sulfites, naturally occurring compound, they generally are not the main cause of your illnesses, your headaches and all of that. But with anything, a winery could always add more, add certain additives that just don't mess with you, just like food, could affect people differently. But I would never blame them for the headaches or the hangovers.
So why are there so many different sizes of wine bottles? And is there one that's the best?
I haven't gotten asked that question. Why are there different sizes of wine bottles? I guess I'd say traditionally the 750 milliliters has been like the classic one, right? And I'd say having a darker bottle, like the darker green bottles, is always common because that's what's going to preserve the wine, right? Having a darker bottle versus clearer. As far as the different shapes and whatnot, I just did a tasting with a winemaker, and they called it something. It was kind of like those, I don't know if I have one, like short and stout bottle, and it was like a Cabernet in it, like nothing too crazy, like different. And they called it I want to say, because I remember thinking squatty potty. They called it like something so similar. Like it was so funny. It was like this really cute term. There wasn't, from what I remember, a concrete definition on like why they're using it, if it's better. It's just different. Just a different, different way to go about it. I'd say Pinot Noirs are usually in different bottles because that's a better way to like preserve them. So I would say that is more like concrete. But as far as like just the different trends and different bottles that I've been seeing, I think I mean, I would love to know too. I think it's more just to stay different and look different on the wine wall. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's maybe a traditional thing and then maybe also like a marketing thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
could see that. And we're all just trying to stay relevant, but like different at the same time. And I do think people shop with their eyes, like as much, and I do too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm guilty of like not knowing the wines on the wall, but gravitating towards one that has a dog on the label.
Right.
Like it's like I'm a sucker for that. The wine can taste like shit. And if it has a dog, oh God, I'm still gonna like it, especially if it like goes to like a charity. So I definitely think it's just also a fun way to make things different, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah. I was in Italy I guess 2 years ago now. And I remember I was at this wine shop in Milan and I wanted to get like a good bottle of Barolo because we
Yeah,
weren't going to that region. So that
yeah,
was like the closest we were gonna get.
yeah.
So I'm like looking at this huge shelf with hundreds of different Barolos. And I was like, I don't know which one to get. And didn't have any cell service. So it was like, I couldn't, do research or
Yeah,
anything.
have like Vivino. You're like, fuck,
Right.
these hundreds of Barolos. Damn it.
I ended up buying this bottle that was like a shorter, like
Yeah,
fatter style of bottle because I thought it just looked really cool.
exactly. I love that. So yeah, it's like like even us being experts, right, in the
Right.
industry, we're still doing that. But I will say, if we're gonna keep making bottles all crazy different shapes, we need our wine fridges and our storage to accommodate.
100%.
So
Yes.
that needs to shift with it, I will say, if that's what's gonna, become the norm.
Why is wine different all around the world?
Oh, that's a beautiful thing because different terroir and different humans, right? Different everything. So I'd say obviously it comes down to terroir, which is regional, right? Climate, soil, mother nature, elevation, right? Everything that factors into the natural earth. That's always going to be the first thing because no matter if Arizona, for example, if we want to grow the same grapes as, Bordeaux and Temecula and France, like it's still never going to be the same because we're at a different place in the world. So I think that's really beautiful. And then on top of that, traditions, old world versus new world. I mean, not as black and white as it maybe used to be, but Italy, Spain, France have always had like the most traditional, wine methods and things that they do, certain regulations that they have to abide by. So that's always going to affect the wine versus New World, which is every other region besides them. Like obviously that opens up with so many other, methods and winemakers. And on top of that, technology and just progressiveness of the industry. I think that's going to be a huge factor as, climate changes year to year, people having to adapt and having to kind of, pivot to maybe other styles, other versions of what they're used to growing. So I think it makes the wine industry like scary and exciting because like we just never know what's going to happen and like bow down to our winemakers and everyone who works in the vineyards because especially come harvest around the clock, that's like literally their life and their blood is making sure the vineyard is thriving and doing everything they can to kind of deal with what is happening with wind, rain, snow, all of that. So I just think it's just so crazy to think about. Like you could travel to even just different appellations within the same area and it could be different, going into, Temecula, but then going to Paso Robles and then going to Lompoc, like, you're in California, but it's all drastically different. So it's cool and exciting and never ending learning. I could go back to the same region like Temecula every year and learn something different, taste something different, which I think is pretty cool.
It's like traveling the world through wine.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's what a lot of us wine lovers, I think love wine so much is
Yeah.
the travel. I think travel and wine and food go hand in hand. And I think it just it's just this universal thing of our little, you know, pleasures in life. It's like we love our travel, we love our wine, and that's kind of how we create our trips together and our memories, at least with like my clients, my wine club members, and my friends and family. You know, like a winery, you know, tasting is like a memory we'll always have because of who we were with, right? And what we were doing and where we were at. And obviously the wine tasted delicious, but I might not remember the Cabernet 2015 AVA, whatever the fuck I had. But I'll remember like being with who I was, you know, and having that memory, you know, that time of year, those pictures, all of that. So wine is just, it creates so many different things other than just drinking, which I think is so cool.
What are wine legs and what do they tell you about the wine?
That one's fun because I feel like I love this marketing gimmick, even though it's wrong, but like good legs, better wine, or like she's got some good legs, even better body. You know, I'm all for that. Like I love a good marketing gimmick. Technically, legs are alcohol or sugar on the wine glass. So if the legs, also going back to how there's so many terms for the same thing, legs could be stains, tears, droplets, like whatever word floats your boat. Like the slower they go down the glass is usually a sign of more sugar, more alcohol sticking, and the quicker they go down is usually a sign of less. With that being said, it's very humbling guessing alcohol because it could be the temperature of the wine, the shape of your glass, the different glasses you're using. So like in my wine tastings, I'll always just have them guess just for fun, but I'll always remind them like I get it wrong like half the time. I usually have to think more about like the region, what kind of grape it is, because the legs always throw me off. But technically speaking, that's all the legs mean is that alcohol, that sugar. And from everything I've learned, legs do not indicate quality, which is, I think, a big misconception. Better legs, better quality. I don't think that is a thing. It is literally translating to alcohol and the sugar.
I'm in an online wine club and he always says, we don't talk about legs.
We don't talk about legs. I love that. Yep. Yeah, I think it's either shut it down or get the word out.
When you are coming up with your food and wine pairings, what's your process like?
Yeah, like my social media ones, like when I'm doing like my random like couch crushers and stuff.
Yeah, or anything, even
Yeah.
Taco Bell or just a Tuesday
Yeah.
night, whatever you're doing. Yeah, what's your thought process?
So a lot of people think I like genuinely like, maybe I'm making this up and I'm just assuming, like don't think I'm genuinely like eating those things and like, you know, enjoying it for myself, but usually it's me like wanting it and like liking it and like being like, wait, this works. And sometimes it takes a few tries where like I'll find a new wine at Trader Joe's and I don't like love the wine, but I'm like, oh, I really like want to figure out a way to like make it work, you know? So like then I'll buy it again and then I'll try it with, you know, a different food and it takes the wine from like a 6 to an 8, you know? So I think it's kind of like for my own pleasure of like wanting to make things work together and then getting really excited when it's like up to par to like share, you know? And I feel like something that I have been good at unintentionally is like being really crowd friendly with these pairings that I've done. Like, I feel like sometimes pairings are very personal and, you know, sometimes people just like what they like, but a lot of mine have just been like universally like really well enjoyed because I get a lot of people who are like, I never drink rosé or I never drink sparkling rosé or wine, but when I had it with, you know, that cheese or those chips or that Taco Bell, like I loved it. And I think a lot of it is they haven't really tried to do that yet. You know, they haven't thought about doing that yet. They didn't. Yeah. And I think that's what I think is really cool. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not this like, it's not that hard. Let's be real. Like I'm just eating things and figuring out what goes. Like I know a little bit behind it, obviously, but I think it's like kind of doing it first and like giving people that like go ahead, if you will, you know, just like anyone in like that field. Like if I'm trying to learn about plants right now and gardening. I love following accounts that are knowledgeable in it. They've been doing it for years. So I'd rather, you know, they failed a few times and then they're going to give me the answer, right? So I kind of feel like that's what I'm doing in wine is like behind the scenes, I'm failing a few times, you know, and then I do end up posting the one that worked. And it's funny, I'm kind of like talking out loud now. A lot of people were like, can you ever post pairings you hate or like wines you don't like? And I've actually decided that's not my jam. Like, first of all, I don't like to shit talk any wines. Like, if I don't like a wine, I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm never going to like talk about a wine and pretend that I like it, but I'm never going to like deliberately be like, this wine sucks, don't drink it. Like someone else might like it and then that might make them feel bad. So that's never my brand. If you want to follow an account that like deliberately talks about bad wines, go for it, right? But I want to do the work to get to the good one and like show, that maybe a wine that you second guessed or didn't think you'd buy actually will be really good, with this food. And just it's all for me, the fun of always being like wine needs food. Wine, I love when it tastes good on its own. Don't get me wrong. I could throw back a lot of wines without food. But the beauty of wine is when it balances out a dish or a food brings out something good in the wine or out something good in the food or just makes everything more smooth and pleasurable. So yeah, I think going back to the question, my process is just very like personal. Like I want to find it. I want to get to the right thing. And then I want to share it with everyone that trusts me, and see what they think. And then when they send me pictures or screenshots or texts or messages or DMs about ones that they've tried, like that's everything to me. Like, I don't get paid on social media to do it, but I get paid in that like reassurance that they loved it and they shared it with their mom or their siblings or their coworkers and people in all different works and industries, are doing it. And I just think that's so cool. And going back to, we all just need something simple and something to love and feel happy about, on the weekly. And I think these little fun pairings have been that. And they make me happy and way better when other people are enjoying it too.
So speaking of pairings, our last question, what are you pairing with In-N-Out?
Oh my God. In-N-Out, low key, everyone thinks like I'm obsessed only with Taco Bell. Me and Nick, my husband, get In-N-Out. Honestly, we used to get it twice a week because we lived right across the street. Now we're limited it to once because we have to drive an extra 15 minutes and we're lazy. We don't want to do that. If I'm having In-N-Out, I'm almost always pairing it with, I have a bubbly. It's a Blanc de Blancs, and I'm always pairing it with that 100% Chardonnay Blanc de Blancs. And it just slaps every time, whether I'm getting, a classic double, I'm doing protein style, I'm getting fries, I'm not getting fries. I just think a burger and fries always needs a sparkling wine. Like that's my go-to. Yeah. So Faf, Blanc de Blancs, name a more iconic duo, and In-N-Out. What about you?
Fun fact, I don't eat red meat. I'm kind of allergic to it, but I get the grilled cheese from
the grilled cheese I've never had, but I heard it's really good.
Well, it's basically everything you would get on the burger without the meat, and it's delicious. Yeah.
You get the fries still?
Yeah, I love
fries. So you're good.
Yeah. So I feel like I would pair that with a rosé.
I love
really
that.
Good with like a fruity rosé.
Oh yeah, that's a really like, I could see myself like outside, like on the patio or the beach, having my In-N-Out and chilled rosé. That's cool. And Temecula has so many delicious rosés. I love that.
Go ahead and take a moment to tell everybody where they can find you, what you offer.
So you can find me at samanthasommelier.com. My Instagram is Samantha Sommelier. That's where I post all my fun couch crusher, approachable wine pairings. And I have a wine club, a virtual wine club community called the Sam Som Wine Club. Everything is Sam Som, so it keeps it really easy. And that's where we get together every month. I offer East Coast and West Coast tastings, and every month is a different theme. For example, tonight, we're doing a 90s snack and wine pairing tasting. So I listed out all these cool 90s snacks. You could pick whatever you want, and then I recommend wines. But say you're in Canada. I have a lot of wine club members actually in Canada, and they don't have like a Trader Joe's or a Total Wine. They get to message me at any time, send me their wine shop, and I pick them out custom recs. So my wine club isn't like the average wine club where you're getting these like shipments of wine. Like wine is actually not mandatory. Every month it's different, and it's always going to be customizable to what works for you and where you're located. And essentially just a safe, fun place for us to get together every month and have a fun wine night, whether you're doing it with your significant other, your friend, alone. Like, it's just a reason to kind of build that community that I feel like we need in the wine industry, and really affordable too. It's expensive to always go out to eat and all of that, and always go out wine tasting. So this is a way to kind of treat your wine lover soul to something that's really affordable every month. So I have monthly memberships and annual, and I also plan in-person trips with them every year. Temecula needs to be one of them coming up. But we do domestic trips and abroad trips, going to Portugal this summer. We're going to Lodi this weekend, actually. So I'm always looking for new regions to take my wine club members to. So all the Temecula lovers, that'd be really fun to plan something there in 2026. So yeah, I got my wine club, and I do private virtual tastings. So if you ever just want to book me for just have me and your friends or your loved ones and just do a one-on-one tasting with me, I do that. We could do Italian wines, French wines, porch pounders, Taco Bell wine tasting, anything under the sun. And last but not least, I do have my wine label called FAF, F-A-F-F, which means fuss in British slang. Don't make a faff about it. Don't make a fuss about it, which is my entire approach to wine. Just don't sweat it. It's fine. Like, just drink and enjoy what you like. And right now we have a Blanc de Blancs, which is what was my in and out favorite pairing is at the moment. And you can find all that info on my Instagram and on my website. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Well, great job, Shannon. That was a really fun and engaging and approachable conversation about wine, which is what I know Sam is all about doing. Have you thought about any of the fun and creative and like everyday food and wine pairings that Sam brings up and she's pretty well known for?
Yeah, I think for me, following her has really changed my perception of what wine and food pairings can be. Like, you don't have to make it a big fuss. It can just be a casual Tuesday night with, whatever wine you've got and some chips. I think one of the simplest wine and food pairing things that I've done, especially when I host my dinners and stuff, I do these mini bell peppers stuffed with goat cheese. That's all it is. It's bell peppers cut in half, stuffed with goat cheese, baked in the oven for a few minutes, and I swear those have gone with every single wine that we've done. It is wild, and they're so easy to make.
Oh,
what about you?
That sounds good. Yeah, I thought that was a great discussion about just everyday foods, whether it be drive-through food, more casual food. It seems like she was really willing to explore, just grabbing something from the pantry and breaking out some wines. And I guess a lot of us don't think about wine that way, and we really should. But for me, one of the things I thought about years ago, I was writing more, and I was planning to write an article pairing Temecula wine and Girl Scout cookies. So this was about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was right before COVID happened. And I bought all the cookies, and then everything shut down. So I never got around to finding the wines to pair with it because, well, we all ate whatever we had laying around for, that month while everything was out of stock. But I think it's something that we should totally revisit at the time. And you have young ladies, so maybe you'll be selling some Girl Scout cookies soon, Shannon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to do
You have a built-in market.
I do.
So we can break out some local wines and some Girl Scout cookies and have some fun with that and see what happens. And I have to say, from when I was a kid, the Girl Scout cookies, the available variety of cookies is so much broader than years and years ago. There's all kinds of flavors and stuff now. So I could see a lot of different things working for pairing. The other one I've thought about was Jelly Bellies and wines. So they make all kinds of flavors. That would be a really interesting thing to pair with some wines. I could see everybody loathes the buttered popcorn Jelly Belly bean, but that is definitely has Chardonnay written all over that one. So that would be a good one to explore with some different flavors. And if you're really up for a challenge, they make the Hogwarts style, so you can get like snot flavored jelly beans and fart flavored jelly beans. That would really be wow. So now that we're giving Sam some free ideas, if she hasn't explored those, if you're listening, Sam, you can thank us later in another Instagram post and throw us some traffic. We had a lot of listener questions that you've kind of assembled, and we brought some of those to Sam. Next week, we're going to have some more questions that people have brought to us, and we're going to put that in a show along with questions that we've asked Devin Parr, who's been on the show, and then also Heather Rankin, who has been on the show too. Was there anything that you wanted to follow up on from this show? I know that we briefly discussed the wine glasses. You wanted to follow up a little bit on that.
Yeah, so shout out to my sister-in-law, Sarah, in Denmark. She was telling me about, they call it a glass tasting. You go and they have the same wine poured in all kinds of different glasses, and you can see the difference and like smell how it smells different throughout the different glasses. Does it taste different throughout the different glasses? So I thought that was so interesting, and I can see how that would actually, it can actually change the wine. You know, granted, if somebody doesn't have the money, you're not going to go out and buy all of these different glasses to have at home. You can just, pick one universal glass. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, and I want to kind of set that up and try it.
Sam mentions Riedel. Riedel is a large producer of kind of upscale luxury glassware, stemware. And they make all types. They make specialty glasses for Riesling, for champagne. And they even probably make glasses that are separate champagne from other sparkling wines. So you can have different types. But they make Cabernet ones, Merlot-based ones, Pinot Noir-based ones, Chardonnay. So they have all this full range of stemware that you can certainly invest in if you want to. I personally have bought some of those, and I was big, and I still am big into German Riesling, and they make a specialized Riesling stemware. It broke after the first time I used it. Just snapped right off at the stem. The point of that is that you can invest in this, but know that they are very delicate stemware and need a lot of care and love given to them. For me, I would suggest just finding a really nice universal glass set of 6 or a set of 12 and stick with that. If you want to branch out and get something that is specialized because you really love Pinot Noir and you heard about these Riedel Pinot Noir glasses, I think that's great. I just wouldn't get like 12 of them because they won't last forever. And after you break one and you realize that's the $25 glass, you're kind of like, yeah, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to follow up on, listening to your conversation, was about the different bottle sizes and why they are. And your inclination was right on. Now, I've taught a class on this several years ago about the different bottle sizes, and they really do come down to marketing. You have mostly like everybody's seen this sort of cylindrical Bordeaux style, which houses, it can really house anything. Everything from Sauvignon Blanc to Cabernet Sauvignon to sweet wines to whatever. You see the wider bottom ones, which are the Pinot Noir and Rhone and Chenin Blanc. There's not really a reason for them to be in there other than they have been historically associated with that type of bottle. And the same with Riesling. They make a Hock, which is kind of like the taller, narrow style of glass. And those are generally associated with like Riesling and Gewürztraminer and Pinot Gris. Again, it comes down to that was the way they separated themselves on the market and on the shelf, like your experience with the Barolo bottle. It's purely marketing. And then on top of that, you have rosé bottles. The whole reason they're clear is to show the juice that's inside the glass. It's purely marketing. And if you go down to any grocery store, Total Wine, wherever you want to go, there are so many different types of rosé bottles. It's pretty crazy. And the last one I want to mention is champagne bottles and sparkling wine bottles are the size and width and heaviness that they are is because they need to hold in. They've been developed to hold in the pressure that's inside of there. And if you were to put that sort of pressure in a normal bottle or any other kind of wine bottle, they would just explode. If you're ever wondered why a champagne bottle was the shape and size and the weight that it is, that's why. Because we don't want it to explode on you. Was there anything else from the episode that, going back now, you want to comment on? Or
I think that wraps up today's episode. I do want to thank our listeners who asked us these questions and inspired this episode. I want to let everybody know that next week we've got some additional questions from you all that Sam and HB, aka Heather Rankin, and Devin Parr have answered for you. So I'm looking forward to putting that episode out next week.
Just to remind folks, you can stay on top of the latest episodes as they're released by subscribing to Pour Temecula. And it would be great if we got some more reviews, or if you just told some people about the show and helped us grow a little bit. You can follow us on social media for behind the scenes content and updates on upcoming guests. Until next time, keep exploring, keep sipping, and cheers.
Cheers.